RFP. And obviously, then it will be another consultant to do the work. I just felt particularly, given the extent of the work, that first $25,000, I was concerned that was going to be not an in-depth like a review of the revision of the DPA2. Even if you compare with the geological, you're talking about $60,000, and the other one was roughly estimated. So I thought, well, why don't we narrow down what the goals, exactly what Councillor Ledwig said, what the objectives of this revision will be, and then the consultant could put the package together. And I thought, okay, 25 is just the initial. I don't think we're going to pay 25 for the consultant to prepare the RFP. This is just some estimation. And we can discuss. I mean, if whatever I propose, it's out of the scope. I was just looking at the scope, right? Because I have been, I have environmental background. I have been involved in many types of this work, and I'm concerned with climate change. I have been part of the tree committee. I know the conversations that we are having. We are now part of the Biosphere Reserve. So I wanted to include certain aspects. That's the only thing. I'm just making staff's work easier. They can come back and say, well, we don't, or the consultant can say, well, maybe that doesn't make sense, but we don't have specific staff that has environmental background. We will have to hire a consultant anyways. So I thought, well, why don't help in the language to the consultant, so the consultant know exactly what to look at this RFP. That was the intent here. And council said, well, we're not interested. Let Councilor DeAndrade prepare this. And I'm happy to do. Actually, I'm almost ready.
Councilor Ledwig.
I will say now, looking at all these motions, it does seem overly complicated.
Yes.
Yeah, fair enough. So I have to admit that personally, looking at the list of them now, I would not support and that a consultant be hired to prepare the RFP for DPA2, but I would still support that Councillor DeAndrade be authorized to work with staff on the drafting of the RFP. So the way I look at these things, I see staff, if Councillor DeAndrade wants to assist, I'm fine with that, putting together a proposal, drafting a request for a proposal, and that's when the consultant comes forward with a plan for how they will address the concerns or questions in the RFP. That's how I see it. Yeah. And so I do feel like this is a bit overkill, but I still stand by, I'm fine with having Councillor DeAndrade work with staff to ensure that the question that's being put forward to consultants is reflective of what she's wanting to get out of this process, and that hopefully that would come to us and we'd all agree with whatever it is she's trying to get out of this review.
CEO?
Yeah, just a point of clarification. It's actually going to be the consultant drafting the RFP that has expertise in the development permit areas. So by eliminating that, that's not the intent of the staff recommendation. The staff recommendation is to have the consultants who have the expertise in environmental matters draft the RFP.
Okay. Councillor Ledwig?
So why don't we get Councillor DeAndrade working with the consultant then? Like, why do we have to keep going? I don't know. It doesn't make sense.
Councillor DeAndrade, then Councillor Kroll.
Thank you. What I'm doing, I'm just providing some scope that I would like to see. I'm not drafting the RFP. I'm just saying, I would like the RFP to cover this area, and to look at this, to look at that. This is just even actually to make staff's work easily, right? Because it's very comprehensive what I wrote, but I'm not drafting there. Then you're going to get a consultant that's going to draft the terms of reference. I'm just proposing just to narrow down, because I didn't want to see anything missing in this RFP. That's the only thing that I offered to do.
We're using different terms here. When we talk about terms of reference, it's different than an RFP. So no,
the terms of reference is what is going to go into the big work, and the RFP is just a request for proposal, but the terms of reference is what dictates what this proposal is about. And that's what I want. I just wanted to provide the scope of the things that over the last 3 years, I have been reading and understanding what would be beneficial for the DPA2. That's the only thing I'm doing.
Councillor Kroll.
Thank you, Mayor Beamish. Yeah, I can see where it's looking a little cumbersome here. I would almost suggest an amendment that Councillor D'Andretti be authorized to work with staff on drafting of the RFP, is that perhaps Councillor D'Andretti provide staff with a list of topics that she would want to have assurance that is covered in the terms of reference. It gets really awkward with,
Yeah.
Anyway.
Quite frankly, I suspect any counselor could provide staff with some suggestions for that. So yeah, I think it's probably a better way to do it. I mean, it's a confusing resolution as it stands. You got 3 times this RFP is going to be looked at. It's going to come back to the committee of the whole for a discussion. So and I'm not sure whether that's before it goes to the consultant or whether it's after the consultants have it. So that in terms of process, we got the hierarchy of process. We got the RFP being hired, the consultant hired to prepare an RFP. We got Councillor D'Andrade working with staff, and then we got to come back to council. What is the cycle there? Is it going to be back to council? It's the RFP we're talking about. It's a request for proposals to council. After Councillor D'Andrade's worked with staff, to be given to the consultant, or is the consultant's draft going to come to council? I'm not. It's confusing. I'm sorry. and I do like Councillor whatever the suggestion, Councillor Kroll's suggestion that hey, provide input, provide comments to staff relative to the terms of reference for hiring a consultant to draft an RFP. And what is the content of the RFP? I think that's what you're trying to get to. But Mr. Brown?
Yes, I too support what Councillor Kroll is trying to get across, and the order as I see it, and I stand to be corrected by the Director of Planning, but the council, in this case, Councillor D'Andrade, would have input into what the terms of reference for the consultant drafting the RFP will be doing. And then the RFP itself, once the consultant has looked at those comments, used his or her own professional opinion and come up with an RFP that would then come back with the council's input back to council of the committee of the whole for approval prior to it actually being sent out. Yeah. But I would respectfully ask that it becomes through the CAO rather than directly to the Director of Planning, just to keep that at arm's length.
Yeah. Councillor Ludwig.
So how much of this 25,000 are we dedicating towards the first consultant to prepare the RFP?
I don't have that breakdown, but maybe Leslie Ann does.
That's a good question. I don't have that breakdown either. So hiring a consultant to prepare the RFP is going to cost money. It's going to take money out of the 25,000 that was allocated. The staff report on the September 21st agenda, I think, or September 7th Committee of the Whole, outlined the scope of work for the 2 projects. So anything, the intention with that staff report was to get council's support on drafting the RFP and allocating a budget to prepare that work. So if there's hiring a consultant will add to that. And if it comes back to council, if there's any work for the consultant to consult with council on the RFP, that's added work and added budget.
Okay. Councillor D'Andrade.
Oh, sorry. When was the DPA last time revision?
Director of Planning, I believe, is looking that up.
I'm just reviewing the report. It might have been in there. I don't have the number off the top of my head. I'm thinking it was probably updated in 2015 when the OCP was updated, but I would have to double check that. And the intention around the update was to include the 2018 Integrated Stormwater Management Plan, and now we've received a 2021 detailed assessment on Sharman Creek. So we can take the information we have now, and we've also got 2021 LIDAR data. So we would use that information as well. And then we would look at any riparian assessments done on the creeks since 2015, and scope out the work based on what we have and update the development permit area that way.
Mayor Beamish, can I ask another question? So would staff would work with a consultant regardless if I'm gonna provide some just a scope of the things that I think it should be on the RFP? Would staff would hire a consultant regardless?
Yes, to complete the update, of course, absolutely. So
no, to prepare the RFP, to prepare the RFP.
Not necessarily. So we could prepare an RFP in-house based on the scope of work, and we would put it out to RFP, put it out to tender, and see what applications we get. If council wants to add to the scope of work, I think the best approach would be to pass a resolution on what else you want the RFP to include. And then at that point, we could wrap it all into the RFP and proceed that way. So if you wanted to add to the scope of work that was presented, then that would be a nice clean approach moving forward.
That's the normal process, quite frankly. And I mean, I can understand the process where staff drafts an RFP, brings to the committee of the whole for approval, committee of the whole comments on it. If there's input to be had to staff prior to it coming to the committee of the whole to round out the draft, that's great. And then it go to be issued for a consultant to do the work, not to draft an RFP. Here we are as a corporate officer rightly, or director of planning points out, that work by a consultant's probably going to cost you $5,000, which is $5,000 out of the $25,000 that's been allocated for the project, which I think is not necessary. I think our staff are very competent to draft an RFP, and we're competent to comment on that, provide input into that before or during a committee, and is to make sure we get what we want. So, Councillor Dean-Dredd.
Thank you. Mayor Bishop, I think the main discussion of the day was for input, because the report that staff prepared was very superficial. So I thought, okay, I would like to give input before staff goes through, do all the work, and then I come with input. So I thought, okay, if I can, and I'm sure perhaps 70% of my input is already incorporated. Yeah, I'm saying these things, incorporate the stormwater, so things that they know. I think the idea of hiring a consultant to prepare the RFP was actually said by yourself, because at the time
I wasn't there, I'm sorry.
No, staff would, no, this was a long time ago. That's where the idea of hiring a consultant, because staff would not have time to do that. And that we suggested that we hire a consultant to prepare the RFP. But if staff has time, I'm sure that they would have competence. So the only thing I'm giving is input on the scope of the work that I think it will be important. So if they have the time, they can do the RFP. That was, and this motion came from a while ago, actually. Mayor Ramesh, you yourself has suggested that.
I don't recall.
Yeah, no, that I can bring because staff was busy, right? We know how busy staff is. So that was the only thing. But for me, it doesn't matter. I just want to see the request for proposal that encompasses all the things that I particularly think is important. That's it.
Can we do this? Can we? We've got the 25,000 surplus be authorized to fund the DPA2 project to be incorporated in the 2022 budget. To be replenished, to replenish the accumulated surplus. Okay, I know what that means. that staff prepare an RFP for the DPA2 update project to be reviewed by committee, by council at committee of the whole for approval prior to issuance. And in consequence in that process, Councilor Diandrad, if you submit work to them, information to them, that's great. That would be considered part of, so as a process. I think it's unusual to have a specific recommendation saying, well, in this council work, all of us will have input into the RFP at some point, and we can have it before, during, and after. So that if that makes a cleaner set of resolutions, if council is in favor of that.
Yeah, so maybe it's just to clarify. So I will submit, because I'm almost ready with the doc.
Yep.
I'll submit by Thursday what I think, what I would like to see in this scope, and then staff prepares. Yeah.
Excellent. I appreciate that.
No problem.
We'll eliminate the third, and that the consultant be hired to prepare an RFP, and we'll replace that the staff be directed to prepare an RFP for the DPA2 update project. And that the RFP, the draft RFP, be brought back to the committee of the whole for approval by council.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think my only concern will be Mish with staff is because the reason we engaged a consultant to prepare the RFP was not that staff is not capable of doing. It's not capable in terms of time. They have a lot on their plate. And if we don't engage a consultant, this was going to push to the end of next year. So if staff can prepare this by this year, because that's the goal, that we can, so on the budget, because we don't know if the whole DPA update will cost 25. I'm anticipating that will cost more. If we're gonna do a full update, it might cost maybe a little bit more. So we know, and we put in the budget. That was the rush. So the question is, realistically, CAO or the director of planning can respond. Do you have the capacity to prepare this year, or is it important to engage the consultant for that reason?
I would suggest just saying, and that an RFP be prepared for the work, and that the draft RFP be brought back to the committee of the whole for approval. And if you want to tie a timeline to that, you can tie it to Q1 of 2022, or you can tie it to December. If you want it in December, I will probably have to hire a consultant to do that work, because we're already booking into November meetings. So you could just leave that with me to figure out. But if you tie a timeline to when you want the RFP back, then I will try my best to meet that timeline. But realistically, I would prefer Q1 2022 at this point. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that. I don't know how the rest of council is. Councilor Diandrad?
Thank you, Mayor. The reason I really would like to see in December, because the first quarter mean March, almost April, and we already passed basically the budget. I really would like to include this. It's not going to be too much difference. We already selected 25. If we have to add a little bit more and we get this done, otherwise we're not going to get done. And that's my concern. So if council can consider December, and if we have to spend extra money to get a consultant, I rather do, because I'm concerned that this is going to push to 2023.
Director of Planning, do you have consulting fees available outside the?
Not for this project. I'm spending most of my budget on our current work. The thing that takes time is working with the consultant, drafting the RFP, getting it to a point where it's finalized and able to present it to council, and then drafting a cover letter for that report that goes to committee and then to council. So we're looking at, in our meetings, we've got the 19th of October, which I can't meet because that's next week. The agenda's done. So we've got mid-November, we've got November and December meetings. and we're into Christmas holiday for the December 21st meeting. So we're crunching the time. So it's going to be tight, but I can try my best. That's all I can really say at this point.
Councillor Ludwig?
I have to admit, I have, excuse me, I am more comfortable with staff developing the request for proposal. I just feel like they're more knowledgeable about the issues we're facing here in our community with Councillor DeAndre's input and ours, of course. But I also hear everybody's concern, right? This is always the time pressure for everybody. And so what if we just picked a date past December, but don't let it go all the way to March? Like, could we find somewhere in the middle? Like, you know, by whatever, I don't have the calendar of meetings in front of me, but by the February 1st meeting or something, could we say something like that? Just pick a date somewhere in the first quarter, but not allow it to go all the way to the end.
How would that work for you, Director of Planning?
Yeah, that would work for me.
So what's the date of the first meeting in February? Anybody got a calendar?
Yeah, let's see. February 1st Tuesday of the month would be February 1st.
February 1st. Okay. Councillor DeAndre?
Just to confirm, Mayor, would we be enough window for the budget process to incorporate?
Yes, definitely. Our budget doesn't have to be approved till May 15th.
Okay, no, I know, but it seems that we crunched the numbers at the very beginning, and then okay, I'm happy with that. Thank you.
Crunching lots of numbers. So, in fact, I'm going to suggest we take the second meeting in February because the first is right. It's the first. So let's take the second meeting, which must be around Valentine's Day. Happy. Okay. So February 14th, is that the date? Or is it the 15th?
That would be the 15th.
Okay. So let's say that, let's the staff prepare an RFP for the DPA2 update by February 15th and committee of the whole meeting. Back committee of the whole meeting February 15th to be reviewed by council. Okay. Corporate officer.
It's just a reminder that you don't have meetings scheduled yet for 2022. That usually happens in December.
Okay.
So that's assuming that the meeting dates actually stay on Tuesdays as they are now.
Yeah. I don't anticipate a change right now. So, yeah. Okay.
And I'm sorry, Mayor Beamish, just to be sure. So we've dropped the rest of the motion. It simply is that that an RFP be prepared for DPA2 by February 15th, 2022 committee of the whole meeting.
The staff be directed to prepare an RFP, draft RFP for the DPA2 update project for consideration by council at the committee of the whole meeting on February 15, 2022.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So that makes a very much cleaner and a resolution, and and we will get this project done. Yeah, thank you. Okay, someone care to move that? Councillor Deidre, thank you. Councillor Kroll seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you, and thank you, Mark and Director of Planning, for your assistance with that. Okay, we had a special meeting on September 28th, and my battery is running low, it says. It's not the only thing running low. Okay, let me just move myself here. Hang on just a sec. I gotta move. Might be better light over here anyway. Gotta plug in over here. Go grab my agenda. I'm staying in bed. I can see that. Oh, hey, better light too. Yeah. Okay, the special committee of the whole meeting is September 28th, that the minutes be received. Someone care to make that motion? Councillor Kroll, Councillor Ladwig, thank you very much. All in favor? Thank you very much. Okay, moving on. Director of Planning. Short-term rental regulations, goal prioritization and review. And this was our September 28th meeting, of course. Would you like to introduce that, Director of Planning?
Sure, thank you, Mayor. So these are just the recommendations that were brought forward from the Committee of the Whole workshop, where council or the committee passed a recommendation to reorganize the goals. And they started by grouping the first two. So retaining long-term rental supply in Gibsons was the priority, with the second runner-up being keeping the scale of businesses appropriate to residential neighborhoods. And then the secondary prioritized goals were responding to the needs of homeowners who wish to have added revenue and flexibility, and providing tourists with accommodation options for staying and visiting in Gibsons. So with these regulations, they are more organized than the previous, with these goals prioritized in this way, they are more organized, and I should be able to draft some regulations that follow suit. So hopefully I can bring forward some more cohesive regulation for council's consideration.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a good discussion, a good meeting. We really appreciated that. So somebody care, Councilor Crowell, to move the recommendations? Or you want to make a point? Sorry.
I just had just one inquiry. Because one of the sort of concerns with the whole short-term rental bylaw, again, is time. And through you, Mayor Beamish, to the Director of Planning, is this bylaw something we are going to see so we can have business licenses issued for 2022?
Through the mayor, I absolutely hope so. So we do have an allocated budget to do this work, and a lot of the legwork was prioritizing those goals. So now that we have those goals set, I've got some ideas on how we can proceed with some regulations that would align with the goals. So I don't have a date yet. Hopefully by my next quarterly report, I'll be able to lay out a timeline for this project.
Great. Thank you. That being the case, I'll move the motion.
Councilor Andrade, you have a question first?
I think and perhaps will help everybody, because my understanding during the meeting is that the number one is first priority, and the second is second priority, and the third is third priority. But I don't know if when you read, you're just saying these four priorities as a block. Is it what I understand, that the first is the first priority? So if we need to wait, the first priority will win. And if it is, can we be explicit about it? Because at least when I read it, it seems that is a block of the four priorities that we have, but not that the first is more important than the second.
Would you prefer the resolution to read priority one, retaining long-term rental, priority two, keeping the scale, in that sense, in that way?
I think it's just, okay, tell me what you interpret, because when you look at four priorities, it seems that they all have the same weight. Whatever it's based on the following prioritized goals in order of priority. I don't know what to say.
Well, I think that would be one way of phrasing it. Director Stats?
The way I see it is those are the council's four goals. And the way it's written is the following prioritized goals. So the way it's written, it says they are prioritized from 1 to 4. And so the way I read it is retaining the long-term rental supply in Gibsons is a higher priority than providing tourists with accommodation options. So that's how council has prioritized them.
Okay. Yeah. Perhaps just because many people would read that, and since the STR is an issue that, and we are having difficulty in crafting this bylaw exactly because we're trying to balance the interest. I wonder if it's with number one being the highest priority, something like that. That is really anyone that can read really understand, because I think we are giving a message to our community. I think it has to be very explicit.
Director Stats?
If I could share my screen, I could show you how we could rewrite it a little bit differently, but with the same intention.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so we could, sorry, I didn't, it's a snip from a summary, but basically we could say that short-term rentals be regulated based on sorry, I'm going on the fly here. That short-term rentals be regulated based on council's prioritized 4 goals as follows. And then we could do primary goals 1 and 2, secondary goals 3 and 4. Does that help?
Good. I think that makes sense. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. Good. We could frame that resolution that way. I think that would make it clarity for everybody. So thank you for that.
Okay.
Okay, so that being said, Councillor Kroll, would you still care to move that? Okay, seconded by Councillor D'Andrade. Thank you very much. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Thank you very much. The next is 6.3.1, and this is from the Committee of the Whole meeting of October 5, 2021. And Kirsten Rockins, I'll invite you to come forward and present that.
Oh, sorry, Kirsten is not here today. So this is the, sorry, which item are we on? 6.3.1.
6.3.1. Yeah.
Okay, so this was the flood exemption that came forward from the committee meeting today on 466 Marine Drive. So they had the deck addition on the front and the porch addition on the, sorry, the deck addition on the waterfront front. Waterfront, sorry, I can't talk tonight. The porch addition on the front of the property and the deck addition on the waterfront side of the property. And so this recommendation is to begin notifications. So notify neighbors of the variance application. Thank you.
If I could ask a favor, Director Stats, and the resolution is quite weak in that when you have a resolution, the introductory statement of Kirsten Rockins, planner, that doesn't accompany the resolution that goes on the books. The resolution doesn't have an address in it or location. So I think you need to be fairly specific. The notification be sent to neighbors within 50 meters of 466 Marine Drive to inform them of requested property line setback variances. Just so there's a specificity in the resolution itself, because the resolution needs to be specific to be legal. If we could change that. And so council understands, we were there, we heard about it. Councillor Kroll?
Just in deference to staff, sir. And this happens when stuff comes right from committee of the whole to a council meeting with a public hearing in the middle, and stuff happens on the fly. As my mom used to say, haste makes waste. I think staff
Not a
are do
criticism
the best they can.
Councillor Kroll, it's just request is specificity in the resolution.
Good.
Yeah, thank you. Someone care to move the resolution? Oh, not yet. Councillor D'Andrade, go ahead.
I had the impression that there was another resolution concerning the covenant. A covenant be registered.
That will come back when this is just strictly on the variance.
Okay.
The rest will come
So
back.
the next revolution, okay.
That's
No
right.
problem. Thank you.
Mark, you want to move the resolution?
No, Your Worship, just to support your point that the resolution should stand alone on their own. And when reading minutes in the future, the public and council should understand which specific property the resolution points to. So that's the correct correction to make. Thank you.
Thank you. Now would somebody like to move the recommendation? Councillor Kroll moving it, seconded by Councillor Ladwig. Thank you very much. Further discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Rebecca, did you want to contribute?
I was simply going to read it out to be clear that what we had amended the resolution to say.
56 Marine Drive, yeah.
Yes, thank you. And you're right, it was the rush to get it uploaded quickly, and Lisa did ask me, and I let it slip by without adding that amendment. My apologies.
That's what you have us for. Yeah, yeah. Okay, administration reports, form and character development variance for 682 Gibsons Way. I take it, Director of Planning, you're going to present this?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Notices were sent to neighbors within 100 meters of 682 Gibsons Way. 2 submissions were received in opposition of the application. The first submission listed opposition to density, height, traffic, and noise with this development. Unfortunately, there were no specific comments referring to the setback relaxation specifically. The second submission was not included in Council's agenda package as it was received at 3:20 p.m. But I think, Mayor, you circulated that with
That's
Council. So that one also opposes the variance for the following summarized reasons. They feel it is undesirable, not community friendly, and embarrassing, and they have concerns that it will block ocean views and create shade. So both submissions raised concerns about the size of the building and the impacts to the existing building on the property. And if Council wishes, I can read out that submission. But those
Also,
were
you had an opportunity to read it? That's the one received today by email. I actually thought it'd come to all of council and done this from the LeBrock. Yeah. Councilor Diendrad?
Just a clarification, I received as well. I believe every councilor received. It just she directed.
Yeah.
Did other councilors have received? Yeah, so we all read, I believe.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, Director, are you done then?
Yes, I'm done.
Okay.
Just a reminder to provide an opportunity for anyone in the audience to speak to it before a final decision.
Thank you. First of all, just a motion that the report be received. Councilor Kroll, Councilor Ladwig, thank you. All in favor of receipt? Thank you. I'll now invite anybody else who's affected by the development permit 2021-08 for 682 Gibsons Way, an opportunity to be heard. So if you have any questions about that development permit, or if you have any concerns about it, comments, please make yourself known to our corporate officer, and she will admit you to the meeting, and you can speak with us.
We have one person with their hand raised. I'll be moving her over.
Yep.
Laura Rosen is joining you.
Laura, you're still muted on my screen here.
Unmute.
Oh, it's not Laura, just so
Hi, hello, Councillor. Hello, Your Honor.
You're good now, yeah.
Hey, thanks very much. My name is David Rosen, and I live at 678 Fairmont Road. We're just around from the proposed new development in the property. I guess my sure. Hello.
There you are. Yeah.
Hi. Please. Thanks for letting us have a chat. We were just we received the proposal, which we're glad that we were involved. We moved to our property about 4 years ago, and we like Middle Gibsons. It's a changing street. We're for development. I guess our one question with the building is,
is it for real?
well, they're adding parking, and or I guess there would be need for more parking with apartments on top. Also, we were wondering, as far as the waste management, how that would be with the current proposed unit, how it looks. how the area that it creates between the existing property, how that area would function. Because right now it kind of would be, putting a wall up on the side of the street with the older property in the back. So our thing would be how the property developer would create cohesion between the properties and how that space created between the two would be used effectively.
Because at the beginning, it's not good.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's one of our major concerns.
Thank
I
you. For,
don't care about the setback. How about
Well,
that?
no, honey, we care about the set. No.
Yes.
Okay.
Because putting it up and in the photo, it's not, the town went to great lengths, of course, to,
Or the property.
with the water, we've changed the way the water, flows down Gibsons away from everything, which is great. So just wondering how, how that would affect, because there will be parking in the back, I assume. So would there be frontage for people to access the commercial, or is it just
Inside there.
just kind of the building would be just right up against where the culvert is?
Director of Planning, can you respond to that?
Yeah, I can try. So the building would be brought up right up to the front property line. So the intention would be the pedestrian access would be from the front, but there will be parking under the building at the rear. So it's not underground parking, but it's under building parking. And then the residential above. The way the cohesion works on the property with the other existing building, I'm not sure exactly how that's going to work. There is commercial in the existing building, so it's also a mixed use building with commercial and some residential.
And the ditch will continue as it is, Director?
The ditch will continue. Yeah, the ditch is on town property.
Yeah, that's.
And we know what is actually there. We all know what is there. It's our soup kitchen. It's our.
It's a very vibrant,
a very active,
popular restaurant.
area.
We've used the laundromat. It's great, and there is residential. So we're just wanting to make sure that whatever else is going there doesn't hinder any further development in properties up and along, because this property is essentially an anchor at the bottom of Gibsons Way. Like I said, Middle Gibsons, we really like it. We like that we can walk to a record store, and the neighborhoods that are here are filled with families. We've got the Hillcrest area, we've got the Fletchers, and those areas kind of feed the people that want to be able to walk down to Lower Gibsons and also up to the school or up to the grocery store. The point is, we just want to make sure that if something is being put there, we want it to look.
It seems like a hiding.
That it's not just,
It seems
that
like a
we don't
hiding spot.
hide the old building in the back, but that it
And
becomes something
pretend
that.
like nothing's back there when it's actually people's backyards. It's we experience life here, so I know what comes through. And having it hidden behind a big building, to me, is scary.
Good point.
And just thoughts of
There can be
where
thoughtful projects being done in our community.
So
I don't feel it's
so
like
it's kind of
thoughtful
open.
right now.
We just wanted to look.
Let's get rental. Perfect. Let's get rental, but let's make it safer and good for our community.
So it's open. Just like having the bigger building along the front is definitely, it doesn't seem, as opposed to
I feel like I'm in the wild west.
having for the pushback on this towards the town line, as opposed to maybe changing how the property, like the new proposed property, works on the current lot,
And I mean, I have a feeling I know who is building or who has the money to put this in, and I'd like to make sure that if there's going to be funding, it should go in the right way. It shouldn't go just to preserve what the commercial zone and how many buildings we can fit on it. It should be working for years to come.
Now, I want you just to be aware, though, that tonight we're only talking about variance. We're only talking about variance in terms of the setback. The owner actually is within the bylaw right to develop and to have that density on that property. And I will have some comments on design, but Right now, the only thing that we can comment on
Is here.
is the setback, and for that purpose. So I appreciate
Okay.
that. Thank you, guys. Nice to see you.
Hey,
Yep.
nice to see you as well.
We'll
Thank
see
you.
you around the block.
Yeah. Okay. Any further comments, Corporate Officer?
I see no further hands raised, Mayor Beamish.
Thank you very much. I would like to comment firstly, for council, take that prerogative. I'm not happy with it being set right to the front of the property line. And the reason being is that if you look at the pictures and of the project, what you see, and I'm just going to get a page reference on my document to look at here. What we see, and I'm going to go to page 24 of 166. I think that maybe still holds for everybody. You see just a rendering of the building with people walking in front. Then you see that big wall sitting there. That wall will be right where vehicles are turning into and out of the parking lot. Now, in most cases, if you were building on a corner, you have to have a corner cutoff. We're not providing a corner cutoff in this place. So that property, that wall, in fact, the extension of the wall away from the building, looks like about 2 feet out from the building, will be cut visibility to traffic as they leaving the mall for traffic coming up Gibsons Way. And I think the more visibility we can give traffic, because that is a busy intersection, I can tell you that, with the Panago Pizza and the restaurant and the Salvation Army and everything else that's going on there now, that is a very busy driveway. And it's a challenge because, I live in proximity, I walk my dog around there and we cross the road, and it's a challenge. So I would want to give as much visibility to traffic, both coming up Gibsons Way and traffic coming out of the mall parking lot. And I think that wall impedes that visibility. And that would be a concern to me, because all they've got now is simply the right of way. And if you're in any other location, you would have a corner cutoff if you were on a corner. And that's why I would not support this variance in terms of allowing the encroachment into the setback. I want as much visibility for traffic as possible. My comments. Okay, I'm going to go around the board. As on my board, I'm going to start with Councillor Ladwig, and then Councillor D'Andrade, then Councillor Kroll.
Thanks, Mayor Beamish. Yeah, I've given this project a lot of thought as well, and I've really struggled with it because I would really like to see that corner get a facelift and get some investment into it. I clean it up. As the previous guests on our agenda spoke to this evening, it is a very happening place. It's very busy, and so on one hand, I really do want to encourage a developer to invest in this property. And I actually don't have an issue with the setback because of because of how much space is provided between the buildings and the actual street. I'm not sure if our package this evening shows that, but it's just bringing it in line with the other building, I believe, on the property. And so even though it's saying a 0 setback, there's still lots of space between it and the sidewalk. And so I feel fairly comfortable with that. What I'm not comfortable with is the massing of the building in combination with the variance setback. And I understand this is not a form and character permit that we're discussing today, but and if the developer had not wanted this variance, he could have gone ahead and built this building without asking our permission, and there's nothing I could have done about it. But the fact that he's here today and asking for it, I don't think I can support it either. Had he proposed a 3-story on the building in the back, and then a 2-story, exactly the same building he's proposed now, but 2 stories, I probably would have said yes, no problem. But the combination of the two, the form and character, and like the previous individual said, this feeling of a wall that it almost is blocking the whole development behind it, it just doesn't fit right. And so I'm going to be declining as well.
Councilor Diandrat.
Thank you, Mayor. I think I always had concern with the setbacks. And it felt like when I was looking at just the project from the aerial view, it wouldn't be a big deal because it is aligned. But as I go and look at the whole street, how all the other buildings, they have way more setbacks. And I even recall a building that council did not approve because it didn't respect the front setbacks. And this is we are incentivizing people to walk more. This is an area that you don't want any building in your face, like Councilor Ledwig mentioned, the massing. I think that's something that I have been concerned from the onset. And as I ponder, because the building of the alignment with the other building in a lot, I thought, okay, I may give a consideration, but as I go through, and Mayor, you brought the issue with the parking that I haven't thought about, and this is huge. I can see, it's going to be challenging as well. And the 3 meters would give a vision. Obviously, you would have 3 meters of a view. So yeah, I cannot support, even though I know we need housing. It is a beautiful. I love the design. I love the design, but I cannot approve the setbacks. This variance, sorry.
Councilor Kroll.
Thank you, Mayor Beamish. I don't want to take a lot of time because I think I see where this is going, but my original concern with this project when it came to the committee was the shading of the existing building. And, as much as I hate to lose 10 rental units in this community, which we are in desperate need of, I think some consideration has to be given to the people who have lived in that existing building for years. They're not in a protected view corridor, but they are in rental accommodation with a view, which is something to be considered. The architect assured us that there wouldn't be shading from the building, yet in the rendering that you cited earlier, Mayor Beamish, the existing building is entirely in shade. And, as much as we need the housing, I'm just really very uncomfortable with this whole project. I don't mind the design if it were on a lot. It's an awkward property when you look at the amount of open space there is, and this building that they've built diagonally across it. It was, back in the 60s, it was lovely, but it isn't the most efficient land use. But at this point, I really can't support the variance. The visibility thing is, when I used to commute, I watched trucks trying to get in and out of that parking lot with no traffic at 5:45 in the morning when I was waiting for the first bus, and trucks trying to navigate that parking lot to do deliveries as it exists now was difficult. With this building there, I don't know. So then it becomes a whole economic viability thing of, will the existing tenants be there? To address the concerns of the neighbors, it is quite a vibrant little plaza. The restaurant there, the 2 restaurants, food services that are there now are successful. The Salvation Army, we only have 1 laundromat in town now, and that's it. So, I can't really go for the variance.
One thing that might make me happier from my perspective is if that lower floor of the stairwell was an open floor. You had an open stairwell for the first level and then closed stairwell above that. That would create that visibility that I'm looking for on the intersection. So, but that would be up to the developer to come back with. So at this point in time, council, there's actually nothing for us to resolve, other than, I suppose, that we would have to then say that council does not approve the variance DBP 2021-8 at 682 Gibsons Way as proposed. Is that the appropriate resolution, Director of Planning? I'll look to you or Corporate Officer.
Yeah, that would be appropriate so that council denies or rejects or does not approve. Yeah.
Does not approve, okay. And doesn't mean the developer can't come back in some form, but this particular variance would be denied for specific reasons, and that we may see it again. It doesn't stop the project from proceeding. It just means it's a different parking lot in the back, that's all. Councillor Kroll?
I just wanted to commend the developer. When it came to committee, we raised concerns about the project, and the developer did come back. He did a really first-rate, rendering, which alleviated some of the concerns for neighbors as far as view being blocked. For anyone that's listening, I would certainly recommend upfront going to the additional cost of providing proper renderings when you're submitting a project like this. You know, you look at the picture that you referenced, Mayor Beamish, the culvert's not there, the sidewalk's not there. You know, it's very misleading, and it damages the not only our perception, but the community perception of a project. So I would just advocate for anyone that's listening is, you know, spend the bucks up front and come in with really dazzling renderings and sell it. Don't raise a lot of questions from the get-go.
Yeah. So council recommendation that council does not approve DBP 2021-08 at 682 Gibsons Way. Someone care to make that motion? Councillor Ladwig, thank you. Councillor D'Andrade, thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you very much, Council. Thank you. And I'm sure the developer has got an interest in continuing the project. We'll see what next steps are. Council reports next. What's the time? How's our time doing? I don't have my watch on.
We're 8:15.
8:15. Excellent. I can talk for an hour. Council reports. Before we get fully into council reports, I wasn't here last week, so I wasn't able to give a UBCM convention report myself. And I just wanted to do that briefly. And I know that Councillor D'Andrade and Councillor Kroll would have done so, and Councillor Ladwig. But I just want to emphasize again that this was a very, very busy UBCM year. We had 21 scheduled meetings going as Team Sunshine Coast. 8 of those meetings were ourselves that we initiated. When we went as Team Sunshine Coast, we shared meetings with the SCRD and the District of Sechelt. And it's a very good way to approach government, and government refers to us as Team Sunshine Coast. They know that. They know we're working together over here. I guess the immediate results that came out of this is, number one, on October the 13th, we have a meeting with the RCMP arising from some of the concerns that we raised with the RCMP at our meeting, and be able to discuss. And those were primarily around the lack of policing resources, auxiliary policing, the loss of youth position in crime prevention, as well as the question of what's going to happen when or if we are achieved that 5,000 population. So that will be the discussion we're going to have on the 13th, and I hope council members are able to participate in that. The second one was the meeting that we had with the forest lands and natural resource operations. We met with Alan Johnsrud. Alan Johnsrud was the same person we met with last year, and our questions were the same. What's happening with regards to protecting the watershed and the aquifer? And the answer was the same: I don't know. We don't accept that. We are now organizing a dialogue on the watershed to be held on November the 3rd. And it's from 9 a.m. till noon. And it's going to be broad-based in terms of participation, not just ourselves, but Area E, Area F, representatives from. We had a presentation the other day on District Lot 1313. I've asked them to make that same presentation at this meeting. We've invited Sunshine Coast Conservation Society Association to come, and there will be others. Because what we want to do is we want to look at those things that we can do together to protect the watershed and the aquifer. And Mr. John Srood has agreed that his time is available on that date. And so that will be the date we're targeting. I will be more detail on that as we get closer to the event. I'm looking at the broad-based invitations to include even the industry that's represented on the land, because I don't want anybody to be threatened by this process. I want them to be partners in the process so that we all understand what our concerns are. And the aquifer is something that we don't see. It's something that being out of sight, out of mind, it is a terrible temptation to forget that it's there. When I was traveling recently on Vancouver Island, I drove through the Campbell River watershed. Big signs. You're in the Campbell River watershed. Protect this water, protect this land, and bringing attention to it. We don't have anything in that nature here to tell people you're in a watershed. If it was a stream running through town, if it was a lake, that'd be totally different. We would know where it was, we'd know what it was, and we'd take appropriate precautions. And the Vancouver watershed, you can't go hiking in there. You can't. There's all sorts of different things that people have to do to protect the watershed. We need to do the same things here, and we need to get government on side to support that. So we'll start that process on November the 3rd, and I'm hoping it's going to be that kind of meeting that will not only have participants attending, invitees, but we'll have the public be able to sit in, and we'll be able to be put it on YouTube so we have a record for the future. So look forward to that. There'll be some details coming out. The other meetings we had, it was great that Nicholas Simons joined us on meetings. We had some very good meetings with ministers. Some follow-up is already happening, I know, at with the District Seashelt and the SCRD as well. So I thought it was worthwhile. I think the next week, Councillor D'Andrade sat in front of our computers, listening to presentations and speeches and all sorts of other things as we sat through UBCM itself, which is also via Zoom. Hopefully next year we can all be together in Whistler and attend UBCM more in person. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of put a few things on note on the record relative to those meetings. We have drafted collectively, we have drafted our briefing notes, and the notes from those meetings, they are all on our website. For anybody who is interested in them, is welcome to go and access them there. I provided copies also to Nicholas Simons and the other local governments so that they have them as well, so that the information's there. Ask any questions you want. We'll be happy to answer them. So thank you. So I'll now go to council. I'm not going to talk about other things I've been doing. It's just busy time. 3 hours today listening to the RCMP talk about the demise of the Surrey detachment and all the huge impacts that's having in the Lower Mainland. Just briefly, West Vancouver was losing 5 people, 5 train members going to join the new municipal force in Surrey. They've had to reach out and recruit and train new members who are now recruit members. So it really is going to change up the whole policing picture for a while. So so go around the table. Does anybody else have anything you want to talk about? And including yourself, Evie, you're here, I see. Yeah. Councillor Kroll, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Beamish. I covered the regional district for you while you were away, and just wanted to thank Mark Brown and Councillor Ladwig for the presentation they did on the Holland lands. As a result of that, a member of the board, an alternate member to the board member, and a staff member have been assigned to the committee, so that's good news. The Gibsons Public Market held their gala this past weekend. If you had pork, I stuffed it. If you had fish, I deboned and skinned it. It was a great team effort. We did 246 packaged meals to go. So I think it's a great opportunity. Although it loses everyone together in a couple of rooms, what it does afford the market is an opportunity to generate probably a little more money. I know the last year I worked on the setup where it was actually a sit-down dinner. There was over $10,000 in party rentals just for people to sit down and eat. So the way they're doing it now, hopefully the market is making more money. At the bequest of Mayor Beamish, I attended the birthday celebration for Irene Bushfield. And Mayor Beamish had drafted a letter, but he, at the last minute, couldn't go. So he asked me if I would attend, and I read out the letter. It's quite amazing when a community member reaches 100. And I have to admit, I was blown away. This spry, lively lady walked into the room, no cane, no walker. She came bounding in, giving hugs to everyone. It was very uplifting. It was very emotional to spend a bit of time with a woman who has spanned 100 years. So I really, I was very pleased that I was afforded the opportunity of attending that event. It was, there's not really words to describe it. Too often I'm, the one going on about people we've lost in the community. And this time it was really nice to celebrate 100th birthday. So that's about it for council reports from me for now.
Yeah, I thank Councilor Crowe for doing that for me. Irene Bushfield is one of the 6 founders of Harmony Hall. Mm-hmm. And she's the surviving founder sort of thing right now, so which is great. And in fact, there is a provision, and I'm going to look for the community charter or the local government act, but I'll look it up, that we can actually give people basically the freedom of the city. And I've been thinking about that. And I was thinking to myself, when somebody turns 100 and they've been a resident of this town for 25 years or more, and they've contributed significantly to the development of the community, we should be doing something like that. We should be recognizing them. And maybe it's not 100. Maybe we have to give them a chance to actually enjoy the freedom of the city for a while. And maybe it's 90. And we just designate that as, if you've achieved that, if you've been a long-term resident of our community, we want to acknowledge you. And that just means you get into the museum for free or something. But that's great. And so I'll follow that up and look up the exact wording, because I believe it's in the charter. I'm sure CIO or corporate officer will know that better than me right now. So, but yeah, thank you. And while David was doing that, I was doing the Streamkeepers course. So that's what I was doing. So 2 days. So Councilor D'Andrade, go ahead.
Well, thank you. I would like to start just talking about September 30. It was a very interesting day for reflection. Also thanking staff. They provided some good links, and it's very interesting. Well, interesting. I don't even see the right wording. But, when we all know about what First Nations people went through, but to hear from them and the pain that all the residential schools incur to them, but the healing together, I think it's a very optimistic and very touching thing. So it was great to spend part of the day just reflecting and looking forward to the future. And I like the new wording, reconciliation, which is, it demands action and moving forward. So that was good. On October 1st, I attended the Ocean Watch Action Committee, now with the status of the Biosphere Reserve. And one of the highlights, it was about the Salmon Safe program, which is not a new program. It's a program that started in the United States and is here for a long time. But what they are looking at now that we are a reserve, how municipalities can engage and we all become like a salmon safe. And it's a program that look at urban land and agricultural land, and how can we manage land and water in a way that doesn't harm salmon. And salmon in this picture is a keystone species, right? It's an indicator of ecosystem health. So that was good. Eventually, the town will be hearing something about it. And then Harmony Hall, they had their open house. Close to 100 people attended the event, and they have new programs, and their meal program is being really strong. At this point, the frozen meal program, they already served about 4,000 meals. And actually, I went to my mailbox, and there's this thank you, which is for the town. I'm going to return that, but it's a thank you for the freezer and for the contributions that we gave to the society. They did the floor restoration, and they bought this commercial freezing, and it's fantastic, the amount of meals that they are providing to members. So kudos to them. So it was really cool. So that's what I have for this week.
Thank you very much. Councilor Ludwig? Sure you do.
I don't really have a council update this week, I don't think. I will say I did have an email with Pam Robertson from the market. She said they sold 260 tickets this year, which is up from 244. So it's the highest selling tickets done yet. So obviously, I'm hoping in the future when we can all meet in person that maybe they'll do a hybrid model, because they obviously have more interest in the community than they have the physical space for. So that's good to hear.
Yeah.
I don't have a council report for this week. I can't even remember what I've been working on, to be honest. It seems like Mark Brown and I seem to be communicating regularly about Holland Lands, about the various different initiatives that I want to see happen. I found our Finishing Strong workshop a really positive meeting. I thought that was really progressive, one that we all participated in. And so I'm looking forward to hearing the outcome of that. But other than that, I think I probably attended the Sunshine Coast Affordable Housing Society workshop, or not workshop, meeting, as I do every month, and been working with Mark. And other than that, just.
I'm just going to add a couple of minor things to Mark. It reminded me, I had lunch the other day with Michael Pickup. Michael Pickup is the new Auditor General for British Columbia. And we had a very good conversation. It was just kind of a opportunity. His office, he was actually getting out to see British Columbia because he's from the East Coast. So he's getting around. And while I was there, I introduced him to Matt, District Sea Shelter Council, and he arranged for Councilor or Mayor, there goes my mind, Mayor Seegers, to come up and actually meet with Michael as well. Very interesting. I highlighted things like the opioid crisis, policing, and homelessness is some of the issues that we are concerned about here, mental health. And I think she, being aware of that, I highlighted a few other things that, things that these are provincial programs that my concern with the opioid crisis, it's got lost a little bit of steam because of COVID. And so it doesn't have the same level of attention. I actually had a friend from Tuktoyaktuk came down here to the Lower Mainland this weekend because her 30-year-old son died of an opioid addiction. A healthy physical fitness guy who was celebrating the fact that he just got accepted into chef school and he wasn't a drug user, but the celebration led to using drugs and he died. And that's really unfortunate. Councillor Ludwig?
I don't have the stats on this, so maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but with regard to this, if people were to go back to the beginning of COVID, I think we've lost more people in British Columbia due to the opioid crisis than we have from COVID.
Yeah, and it's still happening.
And in fact, I think this last month was on record. So it's getting worse.
Yeah, so my question to him was, how do we audit that program to make sure it is achieving the goals that they set out to achieve? And should they be changing those goals? The other thing is that I want to remind everybody that Thanksgiving is coming up October 11th. There will be another community dinner cooked by Councillor Kroll at the Legion. I'll be setting up tables with my family, and anybody can welcome to join us and serve. We're hoping, Evie, that some of the students from the school will come and help us serve again. They've been outstanding in the past coming to serve. And we have, as of this afternoon, I see over 200 reservations for dinner. And that doesn't include the 40 that'll go across the street for the supportive housing. And so that we are looking forward to that. So it's a very important time. There'll be takeout again. So people have to come, and they come through the line and fed, their plates are filled by students. Evie, you want to add?
Yeah. So I could talk to there's a few clubs after, during lunchtime. I could go around, and I'm sure there's lots of kids keen to help. And I know there's a few people at my school who go and they go eat dinner there for Thanksgiving. So yeah, I'll definitely tell people about it.
Yeah, that's great. So that and you know, anybody else, if you're looking for an opportunity to volunteer, there's serving, there's cleaning up the kitchen, there's setting up the tables, there's taking down the tables. It's a fun day because it's a very rewarding day to be serving people.
Yeah, helping out the communities.
Yeah, thank you. David, you had something to add?
Just very quickly, with respect to Elphinstone, at Christmas, Christmas, the culinary team did a lot of the cooking for us, and it was because of where they are in their course. And obviously this year they're not as advanced in their courses, so but they are participating. And just kudos to Elphinstone. They've been incredibly supportive with these ventures.
Yeah.
Oh, good. I'm happy to hear that. Thank you.
And Evie, do you have anything to report from your short time back at school?
It hasn't been too much. I'm going to talk to Miss Bailey about looking at the alternative youth counselor to back me up. I was really grateful for Gravity helping me out, so I'm excited to get a grade 11 going. Good. And giving him the chance to join you guys. I'll talk to Miss Bailey about that, but for now, that's just where I'm at.
Excellent, thank you. David?
I have sent Sue Bailey the terms of reference and this year's sort of application, and I don't know, do you want to mention the MOU?
No.
I haven't heard.
No, I didn't mention
it. It's a work in progress.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the other thing is that Councillor Kroll has prepared, I mean, maybe I'll report this already, but we have a large plaque now in our lobby, which has all of the names of the youth councillors on it. And it's room for 100. So we're just going to keep on going. So it's great. You are immortalized now in the lobby of the hotel of the town office. So thank you. Yeah. Okay, well, that's good. Anything else that council wishes to add? I'm sure we're going to get a travel report from Councillor Lumley when he comes back. So we'll go to correspondence. The correspondence for the week of ending September 20th and September 27th. Motion to receive. Councillors, thank you, Councillor Kroll, Councillor Ladwig, thank you. Anything arising from those correspondence? Councillor Kroll, go ahead.
Just wanted to mention the SCRD Transit 101 workshop, October 15th. I mentioned
it has been canceled.
What's that?
I think it was canceled, wasn't it?
Canceled. It may have been.
To be rescheduled.
Okay.
It was canceled
already. I'm bad. Just sort of a segue from what Councillor D'Andretti was saying with respect to the 30th and the Day of Reconciliation. The RCMP did 30 days of action, and through the month of September, 30 days, they listed things worthy of following up or pursuing. And with permission, I will forward this to Elizabeth to edit, to add to our reconciliation website, because there are some really good short online movies, some books to read. Some of the stuff is specific RCMP, but I think there's a lot of information in this 30 days of action that it saves people doing a lot of hunting around. And if we just sort of edit this list down and incorporate it on our website, I think people might appreciate it. And that, I think, is it for me.
Okay. Councilor Diandra, go ahead.
Thank you. There's a letter from our staff, from our engineer regarding the wastewater facility. And I really appreciate, because there has been complaints and he responded. And Mayor, you have suggested that perhaps we put this letter on our website or in the Coast Reporter. I support that, because obviously we are a tourist community, and this impacts tourism. This impacts the people who live around, and for them to have the certainty that we are addressing this, I think is very important. So I support your suggestion.
Okay, appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah. And I will stop clicking my pen. I put it down. Thank you. Councilor Kroll.
Just very quickly, this is the first time we've had a number of thank you letters. And it's really nice when you're wading through, a couple hundred pages of correspondence to suddenly get thank you letters. Our bylaw officer was commended, and some other staff. And I think it's just great that people do take the time to thank our amazing staff. So it's just really pleasant to hit these little pearls.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, council will move on to bylaws. We have zoning amendment bylaw 1065-63, 2021 for lot 37 Celia Crescent. And the did we pass that? Lot 37 Celia Crescent. This is a public hearing tonight.
That's correct. So you had the public hearing earlier tonight,
right?
And so now it's on the table for consideration of third reading.
Okay, it's been given first and second reading. I'm going to recommend that we defer this until Councilor Lumley is here, and so that we can all have a conversation about it, because I think there are some other issues and questions. I'd like to talk about the storm sewer. So I'd like to motion to defer this to the next meeting of council. Councilor Kroll, Councilor Diandra, you second that? Okay. No discussion of a motion to defer, so I'm going to call the question first. All in favor of deferral? Thank you. Okay. Now, Councilor Diandra, you had something you want to ask?
Yes, I thought we had discussed that we would not bring a public hearing right to the meeting on the same night. I think we had discussed that. I would like that, because you need time to reflect. I actually, because I printed the material and my printer stopped and I didn't see one of the reports, I felt bad. Yeah. So anyways, it gives time for, to review and these are important decisions.
Yeah, my preference as well is that Councilor Lumley have a chance to read the report of the public hearing and then consider it. Councilor Ladwig?
I only saw one correspondence in my package.
Was the first one.
That'll be part of everything. So yeah, there is quite a bit of correspondence there. So I don't know why you didn't get the rest. Maybe it's in your box here now. I don't know.
But the agenda that was on our website, like I always pull it up from our town
right.
Website, only had one correspondence on it.
Okay. Well, then the rest will be included in the report.
Was updated.
Gotcha.
I was looking at it during the public hearing, and so I just thought to myself, there was a disconnect in our timing or whatever, and it's a public. I don't know. Anyway,
Corbett.
Yeah, so this gets mentioned commonly, and one of the things to check for, Councillor Ladwig, is if you have opened the document previously, your cache will store that version and won't upload the most recent one. When you click on it, it will return to the previous version you downloaded. You have to clear your cookies or your cache before you try again. Some people were having that same problem this evening. And then they got it and then they're like, oh, that worked. So I'm hoping that's all that was wrong with yours.
Okay, good.
Councillor Cole?
I was just going to mention what
Okay.
um,
Yeah, so I agree, Corporate Officer, with Councilor Diandrad. I would rather see us give some time between the public hearing, rather than come to the next meeting of council after there's been a public hearing, so that there can be a report. That report forms a record, and based upon that record and a reflection, we're making a decision. So,
Okay, thank you for that feedback.
Councilor Crowe?
correct me if I'm wrong, sir. I understood part of the reason that between the public hearing and the issue being voted on was to eliminate the chance of receiving additional information.
It is true. We can't receive.
So we
cannot
have to be
receive.
careful that, if we defer this to the next council meeting, we all have to swear on our, that we are not going to receive additional information. Otherwise, it has to go back to public hearing.
Well, we're not going to, that's right, yeah. So we don't want to have those discussions with anybody. We're just going to preparing ourselves to make a decision. Yeah. Okay, we'll go to unfinished business. And Councillor Crowley, this agenda package is made up of 90% of your material. So, yeah.
Sorry about that.
Councillor Ladwig first. Sorry, Councillor Ladwig. Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to go back to that previous. Bylaw. I also think it's important that, like, there was a number of comments at the public hearing. Are we not allowed to discuss it?
That's right.
We're not allowed to discuss the public hearing?
No.
Then disregard.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Mr. Brown?
Yeah, just a reminder, that's quite correct. There's no further input other than professional technical advice from staff. That's the only input council can have.
Yeah, and just be aware that I have asked staff to comment on the stormwater situation. Yeah. Okay. So now we'll go back to Councillor Kroll.
Earlier I brought up a recommendation that the town of Gibsons participate in the city's Race to Zero campaign. And at the last time more information was requested, I've supplied more information. For some reason, my recommendation got omitted out of the information package that I submitted. But basically, I was recommending that the town of Gibsons participate in the city's Race to Zero campaign, and that by signing into the pledge agreement, that as a collective body, the goal being 1,000 members by the time of the COP26 summit in Glasgow, which is at the end of October, we can work as a united voice to help mitigate the climate crisis. There are quite a few Canadian cities that have joined this initiative. North Vancouver, the city of Vancouver. And I just felt, at the time I had presented this, the UNESCO Biosphere announcement had not been made, but now it has been made. And as Mayor Beamish is touting us as the gateway to the biosphere, I think it's only appropriate that we join this group. It's just online participation. Periodically, you update what you're doing. You basically sign a pledge form that you're public endorsing the following principles: that we recognize the global climate emergency. We're committed to keep the global heating below 1.5 Celsius per the Paris Agreement. We're committed to putting in inclusive climate action at the center of all urban decision-making. And we invite our partners, politicians, leaders, CEOs, trade unions, etc., to participate in this. And there's a number of criteria: create a more inclusive society, create green and healthy streets, reduce air pollution and ensure clean air, develop zero carbon buildings, and so on. So most of it are actions that we're already doing or committed to within our strategic plan. So I just felt that this would give us another layer to the work we're doing, and probably perhaps as a reminder to incentivize us to work towards our strategic plan goals with respect to climate. So I would ask that we pledge that we sign on as a member of the city's Race to Zero campaign.
Councilor Diandrade?
Thank you. I obviously support that. The only thing I hope that with this initiative, we take things a little bit further. I know we have been doing things here and there. What I feel is a little bit of lack of integration and something that we already acknowledge in our strategic planning, that we will look at everything under the lens of climate change. I understand there is a big step, and sometimes it's not easy. We are a small town and staff is busy, but I hope with this we have more resources to do so. I mean, one of the bullets here is ambitious adaptation visions and goals based on quantified scientific evidence when possible to increase local resilience to climate change. I know in certain areas we move forward, but I just hope with this we integrate everything. So now we are just, because what I feel, for example, even we made a commitment in our strategic planning to do a climate change, which is a plan, which is bold, and we haven't even touched. And I know we are not going to do. And I'd rather do the urban forest first because it's almost more important. And then we can do. But I just hope with this, we embark 2023 with a bold plan and become just not an item. Because what I think it's not good is when you have an item that you just put there. It seems that we are doing some sort of lip service just to say that we are, and this part I don't like. I like putting something that we really stand for and we fight for that and we embrace and we move forward. So I would support, because I think it's an important initiative because it comes from municipalities. So I think it's important. And our neighbors have been doing, which I think is also, Vancouver has a lot of capacity. We can borrow a lot of their strategies because they have dedicated people for that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Councilor Ladwig?
I have two thoughts. I mean, I certainly support the intention of it. So, yeah, I guess my two thoughts right now are, we're kind of I think we're going to be talking about our work plan for the remainder of our term. And I kind of wonder if this would be a good thing to, I don't mean to keep deferring things, but to kind of add into that discussion. And the reason I say that is, and this leads to my second point, I'd almost like to hear from staff, and I don't know if they've read this report in our agenda this evening or not, but what the commitment would be for us to even report out on it regularly and even to try to implement it, like to think about what this really means for staff and the level of resourcing that we're going to put towards it relative to these other initiatives that Councillor Diandrade just described, like the urban forests and these kinds of things. Like, I kind of feel like I'd like to have this initiative in a broader discussion with the other initiatives that we're also talking about in relation to climate change. And it might very well be that this is the overarching umbrella that we use to capture a lot of those other things in, but I kind of feel like I'd like to have that discussion with that context, if that makes sense.
Mark, can I ask you, do we still, or Director of Plan, do we still report on the CARP? Even though the province no longer has that program, are we recording our emissions and things?
Yeah, I think last year, if I recall, they postponed it, so we didn't have to fill out the information, but we did fill out a bunch of information. It was a lot less reporting than what we had to do in the past, so they've changed the reporting format, but we are recording some information.
We are still, yeah. Mark?
Yes, just to expand on, they're going to replace it with a different program, but in the meantime, yes, we're still doing that.
The CARIP was a climate action reporting program that we report to the province, and we actually got money back from the province every year, and then they canceled the program. It sounds like they're redesigning it. So, having said that, we are already monitoring, we're already measuring, and so that we're already developing a report. So I don't think that this would be a big step from staff to integrate the information from that program into this additional reporting, which is I think basically much the same as what we are already doing and have done for many years already. So I would certainly, Councillor Crowell, did you mention the time limit around this, or?
Thank you, Mayor Beamish. The conference is in Glasgow at the end of October. So it would, if we're going to sign on, it would be really nice to be one of the members who is part of the COP26 conference. I know we're just sort of one voice, little voice on the West Coast, but I think, there's huge power in one. And I think it just aligns with some of our other goals from the reporting point of view. You commit to the pledge form, but you report as you're able to reach goals as outlined in the thing. And it's online reporting. It's not like, staff have to, sit and type huge reports. We're probably doing them anyway. They can be cut and paste into the reporting system within this.
Yeah, I read through this and I look at things we are doing, like reduce air pollution. We've provided funding for that program today in the Fresh Air Society. Advancing towards zero waste. We are working with the SCRD on the landfill stuff. Sustainable food, we provided a grant for that today as well, for the small steps, but these are things that we are doing. Many of these things that on this list we're doing, so that I don't think it's a big stretch.
That's really what caught my eye with it, is the fact of so much of it we're doing. And, it's not about recognition per se, but okay, it is about recognition per se. We've done it. We can tick the box and say, hey guys, we did this. We've got composting. We've reduced, how many thousand tons of material that hasn't gone into our landfill that isn't creating methane. Like some of the things we're doing are stormwater management. Going with natural assets as opposed to, engineered infrastructure that has huge greenhouse gas emissions. So, a lot of it is, I'll fess up. It's all about recognition.
Councillor Diendrad?
Yeah, I want to just to follow up on the point that I originally mentioned, and then Councillor Ledwig said, because I experienced this with the Ocean Watch Action Committee. I was doing the reporting, I was asking many, but I felt, well, it's on my hand, depends on me. What about, I go and another councillor doesn't have the same interest. So I try to create with staff a system, because especially now it's part of the biosphere. And I struggled, I could feel that there was a little bit of difficulty. And I believe now it's the infrastructure department that is doing, but I still feel like I don't know what they are reporting. I don't know if I should report. So I would like this to be considered, because we need to streamline. If we are going to, we already have the OWAC report, right? That we do for the UNESCO reserve. And this will be another one. It has to be created a system that every time that we move in one direction, there's someone that goes there. Otherwise, I feel that could be or redundant, many people trying to do, or it will be lost. So this has just brought me back, because I feel with the Ocean Watch action, the house sound reporting that we are supposed to do right now, because I wanted to pass to staff, not because I didn't want to do, but now I don't know what it has been done. So anyways, it's just important to create a streamlined process. And perhaps the CAO have something to say. I can follow up with this, but I think that's, and not to put obviously pressure on staff. That's another thing. So.
Okay, what would you like to do with this, Council? I appreciate Councillor Crowell bringing it forward. Do you want to make a motion, Councillor Crowell, or somebody?
Also.
Councillor Ladwig, go ahead.
Sorry, just to bring up staff one more time. So does our CAO feel like this is something that they could reasonably incorporate into our reporting mechanisms already? Are we going to be duplicating it? Does this mean we're going to drop the other one and pick this one up? I do like it. I really do like the way they've laid things out. I think it's well thought out. Sorry, over to you, Mark.
If I could, Your Worship. Yes, I think it's a matter, we have to keep this in context with the other initiatives that the council is currently doing. As Councillor D'Andrade says, we don't want to stretch our resources too thin amongst a whole bunch of initiatives, but if this one's an umbrella that captures a lot of the things we're already reporting, quite frankly, I haven't had a time to talk to the staff about it to see how onerous it would be to live up to the terms. And as has been pointed out, a lot of the initiatives are with the SCRD, so we'll be relying on them for data as well. But just looking it over, it does, capture a lot of the things that the town is already doing and is quite proud of and leading the world in some cases.
I can tell you on this agenda package, we are talking about pages 75 to 79, because I'm not prepared to sign on to the mayor's covenant for climate and energy at this point in time. That's too onerous. So we're talking about a very small portion of the paperwork that's on your agenda. Yeah. Councillor Crowell?
Oops, just for clarification, the city's race to zero came out of the mayor's group.
Great. Yeah.
They created the city's race to zero project. So that was just background to this. It's not something else we're signing on to.
No,
but something that is in the package that I did include is the resource book that is available to members of the group.
Yeah. So, yeah. Well, I'm certainly comfortable. I believe it's not an onerous thing from what I can see in reading it document. So make your resolution, make your recommendation, Councillor Crowell.
I would move then, with your permission, sir, that the town of Gibsons participate in the city's Race to Zero campaign, and that by signing on to the pledge agreement, that as a collective body, the goal being 1,000 members by the time of the COP26 summit in Glasgow, Scotland, 31st of October through the 12th of November, 2021, we can work as a united voice to help mitigate the climate crisis.
Oh, you had something ready. Okay. Seconded by Councillor D'Andrade. And there's no part of that resolution says you're going to Glasgow. I take it.
So my cousins have a wonderful pub in Glasgow. I would love
the carbon cost of going to Glasgow would be far too great, I'm afraid.
But I will just, I'll let you call the question and then I'll just add one comment.
Call the question. All in favor? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. A young fellow who used to work for me at CBC, he's actually one of the producers of TED Talks. And prior to the COP26 summit, they're doing TED Talks from Edinburgh because most of the climate activists in the world will be there, and they're going to be doing TED Talks. And my ex-coworker Jamie is producing them. So
good.
Yeah.
Okay, Council, we need to make a resolution motion to extend this meeting. And it's 9 o'clock now. We've managed to talk ourselves through. So what's Council's wishes? We have a fairly full agenda of closed meeting material. How late are you allowed to stay out?
I think we have to say 10 realistically. And we can hope for 9:30.
Yes. So Councilor D'Andrade recommends 10 o'clock. You have a seconder for 10 o'clock?
Say 9:45. Come on.
Yeah, negotiating 9:45. Okay, I'm okay with that. Second is 9:45. All in favor? Thank you. Okay, so
Mayor Beamish.
yeah.
I would like just to propose a resolution following up this conversation. If the CEO can bring back how the reporting would be, it doesn't need to be in the next council meeting, but because I feel there's the OWAC report and then there's this reporting, and he can discuss with staff. I just is important that a mechanism, an easy mechanism is in place. And we know also who is the responsibility, falls onto the CAO or right, and council can also be aware if I want to know who am I talking to, or is there a place that I just can go and see it, or is our communication officer? I don't know.
Do you need a resolution, Mark, or can you just bring some information back to us, or?
I can bring back some information based on this discussion.
And maybe some of the CAREP reporting documents we've done in the past as example, because that's fairly good process.
Correct, yes.
And Mark, if you can include how sound. I know, I believe Michelle Lewis is doing, but I just want to understand how it can be communicated as well, because now I don't, anyways, it's this kind of thing.
Yeah, she's attending, but not actively reporting on a regular basis, which we can do.
We can do that. Thanks.
Okay, no new business, no motions. We'll go to inquiries now for anybody who has had the patience to stay with us. If you have any questions, please make yourself known to the corporate officer.
We have one person joining you, Connie Jordison.
Okay, thank you. Connie, you're still muted.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me, Your Worship?
We got you now. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. Just wondering about the short-term rentals regulation change. Will that go back to public hearing?
I believe it likely will. We're going to have to wait till we get the report from the corporate officer to see how much it varies from where we were, but I believe it is headed for public hearing again. The time frame to me is so far from the other public hearing. I actually would encourage that we have that conversation with the community again and not assume that what we heard last time still stands. So, CAO?
Yes, I did discuss this with the Director of Planning prior to this evening, and if there was substantive changes from the second reading, it would be recommended to start the process over again with a new public hearing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else, Connie? We must have other questions.
Well, just wondering, now those regulations will be coming back through committee within a month. What's the time frame?
Yeah, I don't want to put the pressure of a time frame on staff, but it is an active file, put that way. It's not a fresh start. So, okay, good. Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay. Being no further questions, so have a council. We have a motion to close the meeting in accordance with section 91A and E of the community charter, personal information and acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements if council considers disclosure could reasonably expect to harm the interests of the municipality. Okay, motion for that, please. Councillor Kroll, thank you. Councillor D'Andrade, thank you. I'll just ask council that you please make sure you're in a safe place to have a meeting, and that in a private place, and we'll give you 5 minutes and we'll come back. Okay, take 5. No.